Hello, chat. How's it going? Yesterday, before I went to bed, I saw a bad take. Saw a bad take on Twitter. I couldn't sleep. I was covered in sweat, and I was like, no, Pippa. Pippa, how can you say something like no? Now, you may be wondering, V, haven't you seen bad takes before? Like, yeah, but it's based on the person and the subject, right? Like if you see Vosh or the Act Man having this take, it's like, well, it's the Act Man. Like, of course he's going to have this take, right? Like, it's fulfilling your expectations. But now I'm a Pippa, especially about movies, right? Like, I thought that she gives out wisdom when it comes to movies. When it comes to where to vomit, and you're like, well, a drawer, it's like, no, that's bad advice, you know? But again, it's like, it's Pippa. Like, if I was to get advice on personal hygiene, I wouldn't go to her. And if I were to see her giving you some advice about hygiene, I'd be like, well, I mean, it's Pippa, right? But when it's about a movie, I had high expectations. So let's see what she's saying. She is saying, 9 out of 3. Like, this is a must-see movie, right? So, like, when Pippa is going to watch with her kids 15 years from now, she's going to be, Mommy, what do you watch? Say no more, little Billy. I remember from my childhood, it was this excellent movie, The Joker Part 2. I'm going to watch that. Apparently, she doesn't understand the hate. Goodness gracious. She absolutely loved it. Beautiful exploration, suffering and life. Look at that ratio, only one retweet. I think the hate is insane for this. I haven't watched the first one though, so maybe it really is better. Society builds up and destroys Fleck at their own whims. People use him for their own gain and never value him as a person. It's heartbreaking and alone. So basically, like, someone actually drew this event. Someone imagined how Pippa is enjoying this, right? So, like, she's in the cinema and notice that the cinema is empty, and I did see pictures of it. It's true, like Goku and Vegeta were fighting in places like this, and you have the ending of the movie where Joker gets arrested, right? And Pippa is thinking, wow, that's fucking Kiro. It's fucking based. Now, let me put it this way. I wonder when we are going to get a Styx, Hex, and Hammer Pippa collab. Because I know that Styx likes movies as well, and he is a good educator. Like, he knows how to educate people. If legends are true, especially women. So I want to see a Pippa, Styx, Hex, and Hammer collab. I would watch that. Now here's the thing, right? I could sit here and shit on your Oshi all day. Like, it's not difficult to accomplish. It's low quality content. Low hanging fruit type of thing, like shitting on your Oshi. Anyone can do that. So instead, I will see if I can defend her. And I will pull the rabbit out of the hat. I will say that, you know what? The movie is actually good, but for the wrong reasons of why she thinks it is. Isn't that... Don't you smell my farts already? Am I not a media literate and intellectual? Yes, like, the movie is good, but not for the reason that she appreciates. She's appreciating it for the wrong reasons. This is what I think happened, right? Like, you need to zoom out a little bit and analyze the movie from the perspective of the industry. You have this guy, this director, I don't know his name, but he goes to Warner Brothers and he is like, look, I got a idea for a movie. I just need you guys to give me some cash and I'll do it. And Warner Brothers goes like, maybe. Here's a couple of breadcrumbs. And they gave him, like, I don't know, like maybe 10% of what he asked. Like, he has to get money from other places in order to make his movie. And he makes the Joker 1. And the Joker 1 produces $1 billion in revenue. Like, holy shit, right? Like, surpassing all of the expectations. Excellent, amazing movie. And then Warner Brothers gets pissed off because it's like, well, like, if only did we invest more in this, we could have made more cash. So Warner Brothers is really annoyed. They're angry about this. And they're like, okay, well, maybe we can make a sequel and we can make some money, right? So they go to this director and it's like, well, what do you want to make it work? And the director is probably like, what do you mean? It's over. Like I told the story. The story is done. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's like Hollywood. No. We need to milk it. You don't understand. You don't understand. It's not how it works. You don't just get to make a story. You need to milk that, so you milk it. And he's like, $50 million. $50 million. And Warner Brothers goes like, fine, here's $50 million. Here's your bag of money. So he goes to the actor, to Phoenix, to Joaquin. And he's like, Joaquin, how much to sell your soul? 20 million. Done. Right? So now they're paid. Now they have money. And it's like, now how do we shit on the studio? Because fuck Warner Brothers. And I have seen this also done with The Matrix. Like The Matrix, it's got those brothers, sisters, they, them, right? It's got the Wachowski. The Wachowski brothers. And again, like, they're coming, it's like, look, we need to milk it. We gotta milk it. Like, we got woke writers, they can't create shit. Do you think they can create their own universes? Fuck no. Just, we need, like, look, we need to race swap something. We need to gender swap something and make a sequel. Come on. You know? I mean, we want to tell a romance story between Neo and Trinity when they're at the age of 65. It's what people want to see. They want to see old people fuck on the big screen. It's going to make money. Come on. Yeah, it's Hollywood. It's going to make money. So that's what they did, right? They got Keanu Reeves from the geriatrics department. They got Trinity from the old people home, and they're trying to tell you a love story and how much these old people love each other, right? It's almost like it's back in your childhood when they were actually young and presentable. So the Wachowski go like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, I can't do that. The story is over, you know? Like, if you wanted a Matrix sequel, you should have asked for it like 10 years ago. It doesn't work now. Like, the actors are dying. They're human beings. They age. You can't take them and do action shit with them. They get arthritis. It looks bad. Like, the studio knows. So then the Wachowski goes like, you know what? Fuck off. Okay, fine. I'll take the money. And I'll piss all over the thing. I'll hurt it so bad you'll never want a sequel again. And this is pretty much what they did to the Joker. They killed the Joker so that Warner Brothers never asked for a sequel again. They saved the Joker. They saved it. There is no way you can make a Joker 3 now. It's dead. It's done. Right? So this is probably the only way that directors get to protect their IP. You make something good, and you know that Hollywood is going to milk it, so the sequel needs to be so fucking bad, so monumentally atrocious that you just shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. No one wants to see it anymore. It's done. Make something new. Hello, Gremlin. Do you think that all the people that made the Joker are going to get fired? Fired from what? I mean, the director is already paid. The actors are already paid. It's going to stick their resume, I suppose. But, like, as an actor, it depends. Like, if you're given a really bad script, you can be the best actor ever, and, you know, you can improve the script a little bit, and your acting can carry it, but if the script is bad, there's not much you can do. You can't save something if the thing dies, pretty much. Yeah. There are people who like Battlefield Earth. I don't care, cinema has been shy for that. There are many reasons to like a movie. You know, I don't really appreciate the EFAP thing where they think that the movie has to be the top level of cerebral in order for people to like it. I mean, okay, Dragon Ball, right? Seriously, like, think about Dragon Ball Z. What is it? It's fight pornography. That's what it is. It's the only reason that the plot even remotely exists is to justify why two combatants have to fight. Like, this is the Dragon Ball formula. You have a villain, he comes up, beats Goku. It's like, oh my god, he beat Goku. Holy shit, like, no one beats Goku, right? So he must be really strong, because he beat Goku. So now Goku goes, and he trains, and while Goku trains, the villain beats up other people, and it's like, Goku, please, train faster. Look, he's killing everyone. The villain is killing everyone. It's like, And then Goku comes back, and now he's trained. He did the training arc, and he beats the villain. And you just repeat this formula ad nauseum. Ad nauseum. And sometimes the villain, you know, he joins Goku, And now he's like one of the good guys, and the next villain appears, beats up the previous villain. And it's like, okay, look, there is no cerebral story there. I remember like there were a couple of content creators like Geekdom 101 and other people trying to justify this, and it's like what Akira wanted to write, and look, it actually makes sense. It actually makes sense because such and such, and it's not a plot hole because, dude, Akira doesn't care. Like, he wasn't writing it with that perspective in mind. In fact, he even forgot that characters exist. Like, there was that chick that sneezed and her hair turned blonde from blue. And when she was a blonde chick, she was very violent and had a gun. And when she was a blue chick, she had the housewife tendencies, right? So, Akira forgot about her. Like, she just doesn't exist in the universe anymore. And the only reason that Dragon Ball is written is for fight. So basically, it's one of the most popular anime in existence. And it's got bare minimum story and nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. Nothing is consistent. There's no logical consistency to it, right? And this goes to show that you don't actually need to make smart movies for them to be enjoyable. You can have a dumb movie, Transformers. Transformers made money and it was a dumb movie, but it was entertaining. You had some big tits on the screen that made you forget about anything else, right? You had Megan Fox titties. And the battle between the robots were cool. So, like, you don't really care about anything. You're like, okay, get the robots to fight each other. That's Transformers. And no one understood. It's like, oh, why is this so popular? This is so trash. This is so trash. Why are people watching? Because people would watch bum people fight, right? But this is not bum people fighting. This is like two giant robots fighting each other on a big screen. It's entertaining. Like, the reason you have the plot is to justify the robots beating each other up. That's it. An entire stream about the brain rot rap. Yeah, well, we're talking about Transformers now. Nobody watches DBZ for the plot. Well, actually, I would take it a little bit back, like in the beginning, when you don't really understand the formula. It's interesting, because you're like, oh, they're going to another planet, and you're curious, like, how the aliens there are, and oh, wow, Frieza is super powerful, and then they beat Frieza, right? And then you have, like, the android arc, and that gets interesting. But by the Cell arc, that's when you stop caring about the plot, because you're like, okay, well, this seems very cyclical. This seems like a cycle, doesn't it? Right? Like, the original Dragon Ball actually had adventures and shit, and it was like discovering the world, because you have like this rabbit that can turn people into carrots by touching them, and it had like a lot of wacky shit. You're getting like this guy that's invisible, and he's able to fight, and like how will Goku manage to beat him? Right, so like you have that in the original Dragon Ball, but in Dragon Ball Z it's just way too formulaic. And Dragon Ball Super is even more so. How Piccolo represents black people. Oh my god. Do you think he can enlarge his penis like he does with his arm? Is that one of the Namekian abilities? Or they may not even have a penis because they reproduce differently, right? If you rip it off, he grows another, I've heard. It's the Namekian power, right? Toriyama introduced and killed the strongest guy in the universe and killed him and had the story take place on a barren planet. It's like he wanted to kill the story. I don't fucking know what he did. But like, the biggest failure in Dragon Ball, I think, is when he's making like the tournament, the universe tournament, and immediately it's established that in our universe, Goku and Vegeta are the strongest. It's like, okay, so you have like an infinite number of planets, and you're basically just telling yourself, no, we're not going to introduce new characters. At this point, there's basically no way you can have another villain coming from our universe. Right? So they have to do things like Goku Black and other shit in order to justify it. Because you just wrote yourself into a wall. Like, there's no reason to limit your world building like that and just say, yeah, like, in this universe, no one is stronger than Goku. And it's like, okay, well, that's bad writing. Or when they say, oh, it's just like a couple of planets. Like, the Universe 7 only has like a couple of planets. It's like, why would you say that? In Dragon Ball GT, there was an infinite number of planets. Like, that's the cool thing about discovering shit, right? But anyway. Mr. Satan was the strongest character in Dragon Ball. Mr. Satan was actually quite strong for a human. But even for humans, he's not the strongest. Like, you have augmented humans like Tenshin Han. I think even Chaozu and Yamcha could beat Mr. Satan. Because, like, Yamcha can do key attacks. And he's actually described as a pretty good hand-to-hand combatant. So, yeah, I think Yamcha can take Mr. Satan. Yeah, so for those of you who weren't here in the beginning, I'll repeat what was said. Because, like, a lot of you probably missed it. This is what we get, right? We got Pippa saying that she watched the Joker too. It's fantastic, it's fun, it's nostalgic. And she doesn't get the hate. I think, like, she doesn't get the ratio. I haven't watched the first one, right? So basically, people have made the meme of it. And this is pretty much what happened, right? Like, someone took a camera and caught Pippa in the cinema. And it's her by herself watching the movie. And she's watching the ending and she's thinking it's Kino. And I was suggesting that she does a collab with Sticks X and Hammer after this. You know what? Okay, so, circling back to what I was saying initially. I genuinely believe that the director just wanted to kill the franchise. I think they hated Warner Brothers because they mistreated them in the first movie. And he's probably, you know what? The first movie could have been better if I had a lot more money, right? And Warner Brothers didn't want to help with that. And now Warner Brothers is like, oh, so I made $1 billion and now Warner Brothers is coming to me and wants me to make a sequel. And I'm like, okay, I mean, this would probably explain it, right? Like, he's going to make the worst movie imaginable, the biggest dump possible, so that there is no sequel. And when you look at the worst dump, right? When you're looking at this movie, what is the message? What are they trying to say? Well, they're trying to say that Joker is an incel, right? Like, this is what the media was going with. And the moment he listens to a woman, he is abused, taken advantage of, and ends up getting raped in prison. Right? Like, this is the message that they're sending. Don't trust women. It's kind of like the Barbie movie, I guess. It's like in the Barbie movie, you have Ken, right? And when he listens to the Barbie, he ends up shirtless and homeless. And then when he actually goes and does things his way, everyone is happy except for like 5 or 10 Barbies. And it's because the other Kens listen to the Barbies that they go to war with each other. Like, all they had to do was just, like, not listen to the Barbies and do things the way they knew things should be done. And again, like, this is the vision of the director. This is not my take. Like, this is fictional. This is coming from the head of a Hollywood writer. And these are their takes. I know, Zed, if I already showed that meme. Joker is not an incel. He had 3 cop lovers. Oh. That's pretty accurate, yeah. Pippa wouldn't even get the first movie. Probably it's about the man snapping. I think Pippa would get the first movie. I think most people from impoverished backgrounds would get the first movie, chat. It's not that philosophical. The equivalent would be pulling a metamorphosis with the second Barbie film. No, but it's like the idea that Hollywood is having right now that everything requires a sequel, right? And this is the problem with sequels. First of all, there are a lot of people that don't like it. Like, most Joker fans didn't even care about this. I remember when it was announced, and most Joker fans didn't give a fuck about the existence of this movie. Like, they wouldn't go to see it even if it was good. Because it's like something that you just don't want. Right? Like, the story is over and you just don't want a sequel. That's it. Like, you're happy with when it got concluded. You're happy with when it is. It's the same with Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, once they told the trilogy, once they told their story, that was it. None of the other movies that came out after was as good as the first 3 ones, right? Because, look, I can tell you this as a writer. Like, usually as a writer, let's say you're making Attack on Titan or some shit, right? Like, as a writer, the first thing you want to do is you want to come up with a beginning, a middle, and an end. So you want to come up with the beginning where you're setting the plot and you're hooking your audience. And this is like the cool part because they get to discover the universe, they get to discover all the plot hooks. And then you get like the middle, which should be a turnabout. Like, you expected your hero to win, but they don't. It's something like the situation unfolds differently than expected, right? There's a little bit of a mishap there. The hero is defeated or something. Luke loses his hand, that type of shit. And then you have the conclusion, right? So, like, before even writing, before even putting pen to paper, that's what you do. And this is what the writer of Attack on Titan did. It's like, all right, so he set up the premise. The Titans are attacking. They're destroying the village. The middle of the story is going to be the heroes are fully trained. They did the anime training arc. They're going to go against the Titans, but they're going to realize that they're BTFO'd, right? So, like, there's that really horrifying episode where most of the Corps die because even though they got training, they're still no match for the Titans. And then you have, like, the ending, right? And the ending is basically Eren destroying the whole world. And one of the reasons that he keeps saying that Eren needs to go forward and blah, blah, blah is because that's how the writer felt. Like, at this point, he would have wanted to get Eren to actually have a good life with Mikasa and have a happily ever after story. But he decided that's not what he is going to do. He decided, no, Eren has to kill everyone. That's the ending that I came up with. That's what's going to happen. So, that's good writing. Now, if you ask the writer of Attack on Titan to make a sequel, it's not impossible. Like, it can be done, but it's very difficult because you've already told the story, right? Now, if you want to make a sequel, you can maintain the universe, and it can still take place in the Attack on Titan universe, and you can still have Titans and shit, but it has to be with other characters. What a lot of cope is when you do a prequel, that's even worse because, like, you usually know which characters are going to live and die. Like, if you have Eren appearing in a prequel, it's like, okay, well, you know he's not going to die, right? But the problem with sequels is that you destroy the wonders of charting out a new universe. Because, like, when you watch Attack on Titan the first time, there's a lot of discovery to be made. Like, what are Titans? Where do they come from? Why are they attacking humans? Who built the wall? Why are there walls? What's outside the ocean? What's outside the walls, right? Like, this was the interesting aspect. It's like, what's the key? What does the key open? Like, you have a lot of mysteries that keeps the audience hooked. The audience just wants to watch more and more so that they can learn these mysteries. If you make a sequel, well, there's no more mystery. You know what's outside the wall. You know what the key opens. You know who made the Titans. You know what the Titans are, right? So, like, you would have to come up with new mysteries in order to make the audience remain hooked. And this is, like, one of the big issues that sequels have is that they're already boring, right? Especially if everything was explained in the first part. So, like, for instance, in the first part, let's take a different movie, right? Let's take Aliens. Well, with Aliens, in the first movie, there's an alien on the ship, so it doesn't really explain that much, right? You don't know where it came from. You don't know why it... I mean, you kind of suspect that it attacks humans and stuff, but, like, that's pretty much it. You don't know why the Wayland Yutani wants it. And then you have, like, the sequel, and in the sequel, it's like, okay, now it's a colony that's getting infested. So, like, you still have the mystery. You still don't know where the aliens are coming from. You still don't know how are they going to face off against actual soldiers, right? Did anyone ask for Dragon Ball Z after Dragon Ball ended? Yes. Yes, actually, people did. People did, because with Dragon Ball, it wasn't necessarily like a hard end. It wasn't like a conclusion to the story, right? There could always be someone stronger than Goku and Piccolo, and the way it ended was that Goku and Piccolo didn't become friends. They were still rivals, and you wanted to see what happens next, right? So, yeah, I think Dragon Ball Z is an example of where the sequel actually makes sense, in a way, because there's still, like, mysteries to be uncovered, and it's not a hard end, but with Joker, it was a hard end. Like, you get the fact that the Joker is now arrested, is in police custody, like, the damage he did is there. There's no reason to make another story. How to make it interesting despite already knowing the plot. Add more plot. Boobs. Adding fan service is actually a way that a lot of movies manage to be successful. Because, like, there's something about the male brain. When you see big tits on the screen, your lizard brain activates and you stop thinking properly. So, I do believe that when you look at a lot of action movies and a lot of shit like that, they would just throw in boobs so that people stop questioning stuff. You know, tits and violence is what's sold. So you have like a lot of gunfights and car chases and big tits. And that's pretty much how the action heroes of the 90s were born. And it's a formula that works. But for some reason, they don't want to do it anymore, so. The xenomorphs are innocent beings. And here's my 3 hours essay on that. I mean, the xenomorphs are not good or evil, right? Like, the xenomorph, they fulfill their role of being a xenomorph in the universe. Like, they're an invasive species, they're highly territorial, and they view humans as prey. So, it's up to the duty of every human to exterminate them the same way we try to exterminate Ebola. I don't see it as a moral conundrum. Now, if the xenomorphs could be reasoned with, and they could engage in diplomacy, and they would be like, okay, these are our planets. We want you to not enter this territory in space. And if you do that, we'll not bother you and you don't bother us, right? Now, if the xenomorphs were capable of that level of understanding, then sure, like negotiating with them. And then you can actually say, well, the way we acted towards them is immoral and blah, blah, blah. Sure. But if it's any other type of situation where the alien doesn't understand human language at all, they're not communicating, and they're obviously just like an invasive species, then treating them as a virus is the correct solution. There's no morality built around it. The alien queen was misunderstood and we should feel bad. That's actually Ender's Game. Like, Ender's Game is interesting because it literally goes with that theme. The aliens attack the humans because they didn't think humans are intelligent. So the humans launch a counterattack that's absolutely devastating for the aliens. And they have like a long struggle after that with casualties on both sides. And then the aliens realize, oh shit, the humans are actually intelligent. Like, they're actually sapient. And they try to communicate, but by that time it's too late. So by the end of Ender's Game, the kids get tricked into destroying the aliens. And the kid Ender, because like they were using kids in order to command the forces, because like they had like this program that made the human brain develop. Anyway, you should watch the movie, it's really good. But basically, like, by the end of the movie, it's found out that, oh, actually, well, the queen was wanting peace, and they were like trying to colonize other planets and leave Earth alone. And I'm like, well, tough shit, you know. What can you do? Like, it sucks to be you, I guess. I still wouldn't say it's immoral, right? Because if you're acting on rogue premises and there's no way for you to know, it's like, okay, aliens are attacking Earth. Like, of course you're going to defend Earth, right? And after that, if the aliens don't try to communicate and you assume that they're just an invasive species, that's on them. Yeah, genocide by child soldiers, pretty much. Are you putting a brave and strong woman character on your sequel game like Sony does to their games? No. My character in my games is always going to be a guy, and the villains in my games are always going to be women. It's part of the ethos. Until Sony comes up, it's like, we want to buy your IP for $10 million, and I'll be like, sure, sold. As a human, I am a human supremacist. Well, like, here's the thing, right? I keep seeing all these idiots on Twitter. And you know that it's a LARP, right? But they're usually going to say, oh, in 40K, think of the Tyranids. if aliens existed, humans should just lay down and die. You actually have unironically leftists that are arguing that if aliens existed, we shouldn't fight them off. And these are the same individuals that before COVID, and I don't know how many of you would remember, but like that there was this just bizarre type of culture where you'd have people on Twitter go, "Oh, there's too many people on Earth. If only we could press a button and wipe out half the population, like things would be better." It's like the Thanos thing in Marvel. It's like there's too many people, there's not enough resources, so only if we can wipe out half the people. Like there were individuals that were saying this. And then literally the same individuals when COVID came, "Oh, if only we can save one life. Oh, keep grandma safe. Please think of grandma." It's such a fucking LARP, isn't it? Such a fucking disgusting LARP. They feel good. It's like, "Oh, look how much empathy and compassion I have." It goes beyond species, right? If aliens were real, if Tyranids were real, then they're worthy of compassion and understanding. Pretty much like makes me think that the gene stealers are real and they're the offsprings. But anyway, the whole thing with morality is like, what is the purpose of morality, right? Like, evolutionary speaking, is to keep you and your family safe. That's why we have morals. That's why we evolve, right? Like, humans live in groups for safety and security. And we know this because being descendants of apes, like, we can see how apes live, right? Like, it's the same shit. They live in tribes, they live in, like, small groups, and I assume this was very similar for humans in the prehistoric era, right? So, like, this is why we live in societies. And this is why we have morality, is to keep you and your family safe. Now, if your morality goes, "Oh, it's immoral to attack the invasive alien that's trying to wipe out the planet," no, you fucked up. Like, I'm sorry, your moral compass is fucked up. No, it's actually quite justified. And it's the same thing with criminals, like, you can see that the left ideology is rotten. When you have, like, this guy tries to rob a Uber driver, robs a Uber driver, right, on a highway. So, like, he gets in a Uber, and then as the Uber driver is in the highway, pulls out a gun, tells the driver to give him his money, and he gets out of the car. Now, he tries to jump from the highway, like the highway was several feet up, and he tries to jump to escape the cops, and he breaks his legs as he goes down. And everyone looking at Twitter, "Oh, I hope he's all right. Oh, I hope nothing bad happened to him." And I'm like, why? So he can rob again? Like, what way is this compassion? Like, no one talks about the Uber driver. No one fucking goes, it's like, okay, how would you like it if your son was driving a car and some idiot pulled a gun on him and robbed him of his earnings? Is that like the society you want to live in? Is that like the type of morality that you want to foster? There's absolutely no reason for someone to try to rob an Uber driver when you live in the fucking United States of America with welfare. You have fucking welfare, you're fat. Shut the fuck up. There's no understanding and compassion for doing that shit. But like, this is the morality, right? This is like, oh, well, this is compassion. Look how compassionate I am. I'm so compassionate. Well, can you save a little bit of compassion for the victim as well? Just like a little bit of compassion for the victim. You know what scares me the most? Is that I genuinely think these people view themselves as the robber rather than the victim. It's the only way I can explain it. They either view themselves as the robber or they have friends or family that are robbers. Because, like, otherwise, I don't know. I don't know how you can look at a situation when a guy robs an Uber driver and your first human response is to put yourself as the robber rather than put yourself as the guy getting robbed. And you see it on Twitter every single day. Every single day there's like another thing where, a mugger, a thief, a robber gets their comeuppance, right? They're fucking around and they're finding out. And everyone is on the side of the criminal. And I'm like, well, okay, so you want more criminals then? Like, what are you saying? You're saying that if people become criminals, then society will give them compassion. They never have compassion for the victims. No matter what the tragedy is, they always sympathize with the criminals every single time. I fucking know, right? I fucking know. And it's so bizarre because it's not like that in Eastern Europe. In Eastern Europe, it's completely different. Like in Eastern Europe, if you have a thief charging a police officer and they get shot, people are like, well, you shouldn't have charged the police officer. Fuck, what's wrong with them? Like, that's the normal and healthy morality to have, right? Law-abiding citizens, when a cop appears and they tell you to get down, you get down. When the cop tells you hands behind your back, you put them, and then if the cop does something wrong, you sue them. And by the way, just so you know, judges usually don't like police officers. They don't. So chances are you're going to win. But you have to play it smart. The only way to be compassionate towards a criminal is when you don't need to defend yourself. No, it's probably if you have criminals in your family or if you're a criminal yourself. I honestly think that. I think that if you watch a violent criminal and you have compassion for them, it's probably because you either have friends that are criminals or you're a criminal yourself and you start to wonder, Jesus, what if that was me? Or what if that was my friend or my family member? Right? Like he was just trying to rob a house like a normal person and look what happened. And ironically, that there was actually a thing like that during the Hillary Clinton election. There was this old lady that lived in a house. Now, they don't mention that she was black because it doesn't really go with the narrative. But okay, so this was like this black lady lives in a house, and someone breaks in. Now, you know, on mainstream American culture, they put a lot of focus on how evil sexual assault is because it's true. Like, sexual assault is actually horrible, and it messes up a victim for years later, right? Like, getting past that is very difficult. But you know what is also in the same level? Getting your home broken into. Getting your home broken into, and I know this because I've worked at the hospital, I worked at the courthouse, and I spoke with victims of home invasion. It is also something that completely damages a person, and the damage lasts for years. Like, it causes a level of trauma that is difficult to describe because the home is the place where you're supposed to feel safe, is the place where your kids sleep at night, is the place that you're responsible to defend, right? And when someone breaks into your home, you don't know what to do. It's really messed up, right? So this old lady had her home broken into, right? So I can understand why she was in emotional distress. So she buys a gun, and a couple of months later, some other guy breaks into her home and she shoots him, right? And it's a black gentleman. And again, the media, you know, they're showing pictures from the time he was at high school, and it's like, oh, how did this happen? Oh, blah, blah, blah. And they're going and they're interviewing one of the relatives, and the relative's like, oh, he wanted to go to college. How was he supposed to get money if he doesn't commit crime? And she literally said that on national television. Like, that's recorded. You can find the clip even today. And for some fucking reason, no one analyzes, like, hold on a little bit. Why is this mindset being perpetuated? Like, we are obsessed with cracking down on racist jokes, sexist jokes, but we're not obsessed on at least tackling this type of mentality, which is harmful both for the people on either ends of it, both for the people that have their home invaded and the ones that get shot. Like, shouldn't we at least try and, you know, because they were like, oh, we need to educate men not to rape. Well, maybe you need to also educate the community about why doing this is wrong. It's so fucking mind-baffling. It's just like, wow. But there are people that think this way, right? And they propagate this ideology. And you see it all the fucking time, right? So, like, to me, it does feel it does feel as if you have, like, individuals showing compassion for criminals, either because they themselves are criminals, they have friends that are criminals, or they have family members that commit crime. There's no other explanation. And by the way, like, defending criminals, I'm not saying it's like you can't have a conversation about, oh, well, maybe the punishments are too harsh, or maybe this law shouldn't exist, or, you know, like that's fine. But what I'm saying is, like, when someone commits a crime and you're acting like as if there was nothing wrong that was done, and the only wrong is because someone stopped him. Yeah, that's fucked up. Like if you have, like, an actual violent crime that is obviously wrong, you know, like a home invasion or something like that, and your conversation is, well, they shouldn't be stopped, right? And the problem is either the victim or the cop or like anyone is the problem, but those people know that a victim was like, oh, fuck off. In the UK, they are letting sex offenders out of prison to put people in prison for words. So what they did in the UK, and I also watched this, right? Like during the far right protests, they started rounding people up for shit they posted on Facebook, and they gave them like 2-3 years. But what I noticed is that everyone that actually went to court over this has admitted to their guilt. So they pleaded guilty. Now the question is like, why did they plead guilty? Well, from what I think happened is that, and I can't verify this, but given my small legal expertise, as much as I can remember for more than a decade ago, what I think took place is that they were arrested and they were told, look, the courts are crowded right now, so we don't know when you're going to get a court date, which means you're going to stay in jail until then. But if you confess, you're going to get a lighter sentence. The judge may go easy on you, and we're going to expedite the process. Like, because you're confessing, you're going to go to court a lot faster. And I think this is what happened, right? Like, you put the... So it's actually very conniving. And there are many governments and other systems that do this. Like, you take the person that's accused of a crime, and you put them in miserable conditions. You put them in a jail. Usually the jail is actually worse than the prison. And you're allowing them, you know, either to sit in a cramped room with 4 or 5 other people, or in a solitary cell. It depends on the legal system. I don't know how they do it in Britain. They're probably putting them in a cramped room, right? But if they consider that you're a risk, right? So, like, for instance, you're in a far-right protest and the prison is filled with far leftists, they're not going to let you in Gen Pop. So they may consider that you're in danger and they will put you in a small cell, right? So imagine that, right? You're a law-abiding citizen. You're not used to that shit. And all of a sudden, they put you in this little room and there's nothing to do all day. The food is horrible. Life is terrible. Maybe you even have bed bugs and stuff. And you're told, and like, time moves very slow. Like, imagine just sitting in your bathroom for an entire day, right? And there's nothing to do. You're just staring at the walls. Imagine that. Now, you don't know when the court date is coming. You don't know anything. But they're telling you, hey, you know, if you confess, we're going to take you in front of a judge and we're going to expedite the process. And a lot of people will be tempted. They just want to get it over with. Just want to be like, oh, well, maybe the judge is going to give me like 1 month, 2 months, or maybe a fine, and I'll go home. And then they go in front of the judge. Take into account, they don't have internet. They don't know about other cases, right? The lawyer probably doesn't know either, because this shit didn't happen before. So they're like, okay, well, yeah, sure, I did it. Let's go in front of a judge. And they go in front of a judge, and the judge go like 2 years. 3 years. And then you can't even make an appeal. I mean, maybe you can. I don't know the British legal system. But, like, if you confess that you're guilty, right, and you sign the plea deal, that's it. You're fucked. They don't vote for this. That's another thing. They constantly vote against it. Like, Britain has consistently voted against this. They have voted against this with Brexit. After Brexit, they voted for the Brexit Party. The thing, when you actually look into, you'll notice that the vote is not like the vote of popularity. It's not based on percentages, right? It's not a direct representation. They have a system. It's kind of like the Electoral College, but it's different, right? I haven't really looked into the British system exactly, but what I know is, like, if 15% of people vote for one party, that party doesn't get 50% of seats. So it's distributed differently. And even though, like, you have, like, a majority of people voting one way, like, for instance, Nigel Farage party got a significantly higher number of votes than the Lib Dems, but the Lib Dems have more seats than Nigel Farage's party. And this is due to the way that the British system works. Again, I do not know the exact details of it, but the idea is that it's usually like the big cities that get to decide, right? So you have London and a couple of other big cities, and their votes get to decide. So even if people vote en masse, it doesn't really matter. Now, the thing with the British system is that even if you vote, there's no choice. Like, you either vote the Tories or you vote Labour, but it's literally the same shit. I don't think the Tories would have done any differently. I think the Tories would have also cracked down on the protests. I think the Tories would have also arrested people for that speech. Maybe they would have been a little bit more lighter, but I don't think that the Tories would have done any different. So, like, you can vote between the Tories or you can vote between the Libs, but it's the same shit. And the thing with Britain is also the bureaucratic system that they have, the civil servants, right? There is a TV show which is really great that expresses exactly how British politics works. It's called Yes Minister, and it's about a minister that actually comes in and he wants to make change, but he's basically governed by this army of bureaucrats, this army of civil servants. And they're the ones that are actually running the string. Like the whole purpose is that, no, the civil servants know the way the country needs to go. And their entire job is to convince the minister through various tactics, some of them underhanded, others not so much, by manipulating polls, by holding key information, by lying, by doing all of these things in order to manipulate the ministers into making the decisions that they want. So this is the actual problem. Now, if you want to look at it, it's still a monarchy in a way that you have like two groups of people, right? You got the royalty, which is the civil servants, and even the royal house, like the king of Britain, right? The current one, he's pro-environmentalism. He seems to be pro-immigration. Like the royal house of Britain is in favor of all these policies, right? So like, for some reason, people like to pretend that, no, actually, the monarchy would be a solution to this. No, it wouldn't, because what happens when the monarch agrees with leftist policies? Like, then you're stuck with them, right? Which is pretty much what's happening in Britain. It doesn't matter how you vote, because you're getting the same stuff anyway. And you can't replace these people. Like, you can't replace a civil servant. It's like he's born that way. Yeah, it is what it is. All reclaims votes were in a couple of seats, where the Lib Dems were spread out to more seats. Yeah, no, I understand that there's a system which operates as intended, and despite the fact that the Lib Dems got less votes, they managed to get more seats. The solution is to revolt. Well, see, that's another problem. They tried that, right? Like, the truckers tried it in Canada. People tried it in Britain. It's not the year 1940. It's the year of the Lord 2024. And the government has surveillance systems. Like, they can use your phones in order to track where you are at all times. They can use your credit card purchases to see where you are. They can cancel your credit cards. Like in Canada, they said that the bankers have the right to cancel the protesters' funding and to seize their assets, right? It's pretty much what's happening in China. Like, if you look at China, they don't send the cops anymore to beat up protesters, because they don't need to. Like, they just make the protesters' leaders disappear in the middle of the night, and their funding just gets zooked. And there were a couple of protesters that wanted to protest the banks, and then they found out that they can't take public transport because their health pass is red. So, they have, like, other means to stop protesting from happening. To solve our problems, mandatory firearm ownership? I mean, they have that in the US, and the US still has problems. I hear some US sheriffs started forming militia. Yeah, well, that's why it says try that in a small town. But, like, I noticed that they started messing with the Amish as well now. So it's only a matter of time, you know? I do think it's not like the death of civilization. It's more like the Chinification of Europe. Like, what's happening in China is probably going to happen in Europe. And, you know, for the better or for the worse, like, there are certain advantages and certain disadvantages, but it's definitely where we're going. Mandatory firearm ownership. Oh yeah, I heard about that. You know, it's like, do you think healthcare is a human right? Yes. Well, then guns are a human right. So just like healthcare, the government should give you healthcare, and it's like, well, the government should give you a gun. You will see how annoyed leftists are when you make this argument. It blows their mind because they think like, okay, if it's a human right, then the government should provide it. And it's like, okay, then owning a firearm is a human right. So if I can't afford one, I want the government to give me one. Anyway, I think I should go and release the videos on my other channels. If Kamala wins, rest in peace, Twitter. Man, the smugness of it all. If Kamala wins, you know, we will see a level of smugness from the left, like from the Voshites and the Destinies, like never before. Like, they're going to be as antagonistic as possible, trying to get right-wingers to violate TOS by swearing at them. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of content for me. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Take care.